All right, so section 3.2, solving systems of equations by substitution. Our essential question again, advantages and disadvantages of solving a system graphically, which we did yesterday, versus algebraically, which we're starting today, okay? And it's going to kind of go for a couple days. So we already wrote that down. I gave you guys a little bit of time before we started recording, so let's move on to the how-to portion, okay? How to solve a system of equations by substitution. So there's a couple of steps for this, okay? So step number one, and this isn't required, but I really recommend it. Write the equations side by side. So I did that yesterday when I would do the graphing and all that stuff, right? I always wrote them side by side. I don't like when they're one on top of the other. It doesn't give you any room to do any work. So I would recommend writing the equations side by side. Not required, but I think it's a good step, okay? Second step, you're going to solve one equation, any equation you want. Solve one of the two equations for x or y. And I'm going to put right here, if needed. You can choose to either solve for x, you can choose to solve for y. It's completely up to you. You decide, okay? I always ask people, which equation looks easiest to manipulate, the left side or the right side? That's usually what I tell them. So I usually tell them, like, which one looks like it's going to be easiest to manipulate, left or right? And they'll say, like, left side. Okay, which letter do you want to solve for? They'll say x. Okay, we'll solve for x, right? So you guys will guide me today. We'll do it however it is you feel would be easiest, okay? But you just got to solve one equation for either x or for y if needed. Sometimes they actually have one of them solved for you. Sometimes both of them are solved for you. So you just got to notice that, okay? But if needed. Okay, step 3, this is the big step. Substitute your solved value into the other equation. And solve. So step 3 is the step that takes the longest. Not to say it's going to take 15 steps, but it might take 2 or 3 steps of moving things around and solving for either x or y. Okay? So you're either going to solve for your x or your y variable once you plug it in. You'll know once you plug it. Okay? So that's step number 3. Substitute your solved value, so whether you solve for x or you solve for y, into the other equation and solve. So notice we're going to go from isolating x or y on one equation to throwing it into the other equation and substituting in there. Okay, and then we're going to solve. Once you solve for your answer, maybe it's for x or for y, you might find like x equals 5 or y equals 3. You're going to substitute your answer from step 3 back into the original equation. Into the original equation. And solve. Okay, and 5th step, so you're going to solve for that one. All right, and the 5th step, write your answer as a point. I know this doesn't sound like it's going to be easy, especially with all this writing. Okay, but like I said, this is my favorite way to do it. The words make it look like it's going to be an incredible journey, like you're going to be doing so much work, but it's not terrible, okay? It's a lot easier than it looks, but this is like the steps to do it. But it's always better when you actually see it done, okay? But I want to make sure I give you guys the steps in case you get lost. You're like, okay, well, I picked an equation, now what do I do, right? Like, so this will kind of guide you through it. So let's see how it works. All right. So step number one, what am I supposed to look for in step number one? What does it say? All right. So remember, step one right here, it says write the equation side by side. I already did it, right? Step number two, select an equation that looks easy to solve for. Okay. So I have two equations right here. Which one looks like it's easiest to solve for? Left side or right side? Okay, you said left. Why? It's already solved. So notice how I said pick an equation to solve for x or y if needed, right? It's not needed. I already have one that's solved for y. Okay? Y is equal to negative 3x minus 12. What does that mean? That means anytime I see the letter y, instead of it saying y, I can rewrite negative 3x minus 12. Meaning, this piece right here, I'm going to plug it in right there. Okay, why can I do that? Because it says, anywhere you see y, replace it with negative 3x minus 12. That's what they mean by substitution. I'm substituting for y an expression instead. So here we go. So 2x minus, I'm going to change colors on purpose so you guys can see where it changed. And then I'll go back to red. Okay? So do you guys see that? The y value changes to negative 3x minus 12. Why did it do that? Because that's what the first equation told me. Y is the same as negative 3x minus 12. And now I'm going to go ahead and distribute and solve. Remember how I told you you're going to solve and I said for which variable you'll know when you see it? There's only one letter, x's, right? So I got to solve for x. But let me simplify here. I got 2x plus 3x plus 12 equals negative 13. All right, 2x plus 3x gives me how much? 5x, thank you. Plus 12 equal to negative 13. All right, now to solve for x, I want to move that 12 over. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides. So 5x is equal to negative 25. What's my answer for this one if I divide both sides by 5?
X is negative 5.
All right, x is negative 5. All right, so remember how I told you write your answer as a point? Okay, I'm going to do that right now. Here's going to be my answer as a point. I already know that x is negative 5. Okay, I'm even going to put a box around it to signify this is my solution. Okay, what's missing? My y value. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to get that x equal to negative 5. And I'm going to plug it back in to that equation. So that's what step number 4 meant, right? Step number 4 says, substitute your answer from step number 3 back into the original equation, right? So this was my answer, x equal negative 5. It says, all right, throw it back to where you started and solve for y. So let me do that. Y is equal to negative 3. I'm changing the color here. Maybe if I do it, it'll change. But times negative 5 minus 12. So notice instead of x, it now says negative 5 because that's what x was equal to. And I'll just simplify and you're done. So y is equal to 15 minus 12. So y is 3. So my answer is negative 5, comma 3 as a point. All right, I just remembered I didn't record the very beginning. Let me just really quick recap what we did. We had two equations. We chose the right one. We got the 3x minus 4 from the right side, plugged it in over to the left. As you can see, it's in green. 3x minus 4 equal to 1/2 x plus 1. Then we combine like terms by subtracting half x from both sides. We got 5 halves x minus 4 equal to 1. And now we're in the process of adding 4 to both sides. So sorry about that, but here we go. 5 halves x is equal to 5. Okay? What did we learn about a fraction next to a variable? How do I get rid of it? Multiply by the reciprocal. Flip it over, right? So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of 2/5. Okay? 2/5. So on the left side, it all cancels out. You just got x. On the right side, 5 times 2/5 is 2. Because 5 times 2 on top is 10. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So there you go. I got my first answer. X equal to 2. I'm going to go ahead and write a point over here on this side. 2 comma something. And I'll finish that off in a bit. Because my answer is supposed to be a point. What you're supposed to do now is get your answer of x equal to 2. And you're going to get it and plug it in to that equation over here. The one you started with. So y is equal to 3 times 2 minus 4. So that's 6 minus 4, which is also 2. So your solution is 2 comma 2. And you're done. Step 3, like I said, is always a harder one, right? That's the one where you're going through the original process of substituting in and solving. That one's always way more involved. Step 4 is a lot easier because you're plugging in a number and then everything just turns out to be numbers, right? So the 6 minus 4 part, that's a lot easier. But the first part's always a little tougher, step 3, okay? It's just plugging stuff in, you're substituting, okay? So we're doing 4 of these examples. The reason why is because you got 8 problems, I think, yeah. And I'm trying to do different looks. That way you're not totally confused with the way things look. So one thing you'll notice about the first 2 problems is that the first one had one equation solved for y already. The second one had both equations solved for y. Well, the third and fourth are not going to have any equations solved for y. You're going to have to do it. So you get to choose. So you get to choose how easy or how hard you're going to make your problem. Okay? There is no wrong choice. You can choose left side. You can choose right side. It doesn't matter. Okay? But sometimes choosing one equation over the other results in easier work. Okay? So it might be a little bit simpler. Okay? So step 1, separate your equations. Done. Step 2, pick an equation to solve for. Which one do you guys like? All right, so the left side, y, which letter looks easy to solve for? The y, right? It's all by itself. Yeah, so that's a good choice. Left side, I like it. It doesn't matter. You could have picked right side, okay? So don't worry. Don't be like, I don't want to pick the wrong one. There is no wrong one. It's just, it's going to lead you through a different path, but you're still going to be able to get the same answer. But I would also pick the left side and solve for y. So in order to solve for y, I'm going to have to do what to both sides? Subtract. All right, 3x. All right, so minus 3x. So here we go. We get y equal to negative 3x plus 5. All right, great. I got step 2 done. I solve for a letter. It's y equal to negative 3x plus 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this right here. And I'm going to substitute it into the other equation. Okay, so that's going to go right there. Mm-hmm. Cancels out the other x. What do you mean? Oh, you mean when I do the work? Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to see something happen right now. Yeah, I think if what you're saying is going to occur, then yeah, something interesting might happen here. So you did the work already on the other side. All right, so let's see what happens so you guys can see what she's talking about. So 6x plus 2, and then I'm going to plug in negative 3x plus 5. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I forgot the 2. Yes, yes. Plus 2, thank you, is equal to negative 10. All right. So let's distribute 6x minus 6x plus 10 equals negative 10. All right. So remember what you told me was it cancels out the x's, right? It cancels out the x's. 6x minus 6x, that's 0. So what am I left with? 10 equals negative 10. All right. Remember, how many types of solutions can I get? 3. You either get one solution, right? You get no solution, or you get infinitely many solutions. The first 2 examples that we did, we got one solution there, 2, 2. Negative 5, 3. One solution. Okay? What does it look like when you get either no solution or infinitely many? Well, is this a true statement? No. This is false. So here's your answer. No solution. That means you're not going to have to solve for x or y and then plug it back in. You're done. You're done. If it's false, no solution. If it's true, infinitely many solutions. Okay? So this problem was done on purpose to kind of show you, like, sometimes things work a little weird. Okay? So this is a no solution problem. Because I got rid of all my letters, there's nothing to solve for. Let me just plug, let me see if it's true or false. All right, are we okay with that one? All right, last one. So we got 2 equations again. You're supposed to separate them. Step 1. Step 2, pick one of the equations and solve for a variable. Which equation looks easier to you guys? The right side. Which letter do you want to solve for? Y. All right, so we'll solve for y on the right side. In order to do that, we're going to have to move 7x over to the right side. So let's subtract it. So y is equal to negative 7x minus 3. All right, so we're good. We got our equation solved for y. So let's plug that into the other equation. I'm going to kind of highlight that because that's the part that we're putting in. I'm going to get this, and I'm going to plug it in right there. All right, so what do I get? I get negative 21x minus 3 times parenthesis negative 7x minus 9 equal to negative 4.
Minus 3.
Oh, sorry, I multiplied in my head. Thank you. Let me put that back in 3. I did that in my head and wrote down my answer. So negative 21x, that's going to start the very beginning here, negative 21x, positive 21x, positive 9 equals negative 4. All right, so what happens with my x variables? They cancel out. So all that's left is 9 equal to negative 4. If this was true, what should my answer be? The IMS, right? Infinitely many. So if it said like 9 equals 9 or negative 4 equals negative 4, I would write infinitely many solutions. But since this is false, what do I write? No solution. Okay? So this is what your homework is on, guys. You're basically going to be getting equations, solving for one, plugging it into the other, working it out. You either find a solution or you find out that all your variables disappear. You make a decision at that point. Okay?